She found herself stranded with a lost little girl, and the billionaire who came to their rescue turned out to be someone she could never forget. A fog thick and gray drifted through Napa Valley like a scene from a fairy tale, completely swallowing the vineyards. On the shoulder of the Silverado Trail, Linda Peterson was stuck inside her broken-down Honda Civic. Her knuckles were white on the steering wheel, a pointless gesture since the engine had sputtered out 15 minutes prior. At 40 years old, she was marooned on a desolate road with zero phone signal, all while wearing her best interview suit, which now seemed utterly ridiculous and far too optimistic. She really should have stopped herself from getting her hopes up. The job teaching at that exclusive private academy had sounded like a dream. It offered small class sizes, enthusiastic students, and a respectable salary, but the interview took a nosedive the second the headmaster inquired about her recent employment, forcing her to account for a 3-year blank spot on her resume. She had explained it away as time for divorce recovery. The reality was, it was the time she spent putting her life back together after her ex-husband's affair destroyed everything she believed about love and faithfulness. Linda checked her phone one more time. Still nothing. The November air was turning sharp and cold, and the fog was so dense she could hardly make out anything 10 feet away. Only 2 cars had driven by in the past hour, and neither had even slowed down. "All right," she murmured, a habit she'd picked up since the split. "You've got 2 choices. Stay in here and turn into an ice cube, or get out and start walking." Just as her hand closed around the door handle, she spotted it, a tiny shape materializing out of the mist, wandering unsteadily down the edge of the pavement. It was a child. "To my cherished family, welcome again to Tales That Touch. I'm so grateful for all of your encouragement. I'm hoping this story can travel far and wide to connect with others who appreciate emotional narratives, letting me share some love with the world in my own small way." When love is present, everything flourishes. Serenity blossoms, compassion thrives, and individuals grow. Please show your encouragement however you can, whether it's by hyping the video, liking it, sharing your thoughts in the comments, watching it all the way through, or passing it along to friends who you think would like it. If you have the ability to hype, that would be just phenomenal. Getting about 200 hypes can really move the needle. The hype function is currently active in select regions, including Australia, Canada, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Mexico, the Netherlands, Spain, Sweden, the UK, and the US. Even if hyping isn't an option in your area, you can still show support through likes, comments, shares, and by finishing the video. Every bit of it helps immensely. And if you're not sure what hyping is, a quick search for a tutorial will show you. It's incredibly straightforward. Thank you for your constant presence here. I hope love is all around you, that peace settles in your heart, and that kindness finds its way back to you when you least expect it. Linda was already out of her car before the thought fully formed, her heels tapping against the asphalt as she rushed over to the small girl. The child looked to be no more than 5 years old, clad in a pink coat and light-up shoes with tears making trails down her little face. "Hey there, sweetie." Linda knelt, ignoring the damp cold seeping into her skirt. "Hey, you're okay. What's the matter? Where is your mom?" The little girl's cries only grew louder, her tiny frame trembling. Linda scanned the area, but she saw nothing. No vehicles, no buildings visible in the fog, only rows of grapevines vanishing into a wall of white. "Okay, little one. You're safe now." Linda gathered the child into a hug, feeling the chill on her skin. "My name is Linda. Can you tell me yours?" "Sophie," the girl hiccuped between sobs. "I want my daddy." "We are absolutely going to find your daddy, I swear," Linda promised, rising to her feet and lifting Sophie into her arms. The girl was light, maybe 40 pounds of skinny arms and legs, and pure fright. "Do you remember where you were before you wandered off?" Sophie just shook her head, burying her face in Linda's shoulder as her tiny hands gripped the fabric of Linda's blazer as if it were a lifeline. Linda's thoughts were spinning. No phone reception, a dead car, a lost kid in the absolute middle of nowhere, and the temperature was falling fast. This little girl had clearly been out here alone long enough to be shivering uncontrollably. She carried Sophie over to the Civic, placed her in the passenger seat, and blasted the heater, knowing it was killing the last of her car's battery. She took off her own coat and draped it over Sophie's small shoulders. "All right, Sophie, I need you to try and remember very hard. Can you recall anything at all about the place you were? Was it a house, a winery? Was your daddy with you?" "We were at the big house that has all the grapes. Daddy was talking with some people. I went to see the horses, and then I couldn't find my way back. A winery. That only narrowed the search to roughly 100 places in Napa Valley. Just as Linda was desperately trying to come up with a plan, she heard the deep, throaty sound of a high-end engine slicing through the quiet fog. A set of powerful, steady headlights emerged from the mist, and a black Range Rover smoothly pulled in behind her dead Civic. The man who got out looked like he belonged on the cover of a luxury lifestyle magazine. He was tall, perhaps 6'2", with dark hair that was just starting to turn silver at his temples. He was dressed in jeans and a cashmere sweater that likely cost more than her monthly car note. And even through the haze, she could make out the strong, handsome lines of his face. He was a white man, probably in his early 40s, who moved with the effortless self-assurance that comes from a life without financial worries, safety concerns, or the simple stress of a car that won't start. "Are you in trouble?" His voice was low and filled with genuine concern. But then his gaze fell on Sophie sitting in the passenger seat, and his entire demeanor shifted instantly. His body tensed up and his eyes grew wide with shock. "Sophie." He covered the distance to the car in 3 long strides, pulling the passenger door open. "Oh my God, Sophie." The little girl practically flew into his arms. "Daddy." Linda just stood by watching this man. This obviously very rich man clutched the lost child as if she were the most precious thing in the entire universe. He had his eyes squeezed shut, his face buried in Sophie's hair, and she could see his hands were shaking. "I couldn't find you, baby girl. I searched everywhere. I was so scared." He couldn't get the words out. Sophie started crying all over again, but this time they were tears of a different kind, tears of relief, of safety. "I was lost, but Miss Linda found me." It was only then that he turned his attention to Linda, truly saw her. His eyes were the color of a stormy sky, still glistening with tears he was struggling to hold back. "You found her. She was just walking down the road. My car broke down and I was stranded. Then she just appeared out of the funk." He slowly straightened up, still holding Sophie tightly, as Linda watched him visibly try to regain his composure and become the calm, authoritative man he likely was every other day of his life. "My name is Andrew Hamilton. I have no idea how I can possibly repay you." Hamilton. The name clicked in Linda's memory. Hamilton Wine Estates. She recalled the billboards that lined Highway 29, the expensive bottles that were worth more than she spent on groceries in a week. She was standing in front of a billionaire. "I'm Linda Peterson, and there's no need to thank me. Anybody would have done the same." "No, not everybody would have, trust me." He glanced at her stalled Civic, then looked back at her. "So your car gave out. The battery is dead, I believe. Or it could be the alternator. It just quit on me. And your phone, there's no service this far out." Juggling Sophie on one hip, Andrew pulled out his own phone. "I've got service. Let me get a tow truck on the way and I can take you wherever you're headed." Linda started to object, to insist she could manage on her own, and that she certainly didn't require assistance from a wealthy stranger. But her gaze fell on Sophie's tear-streaked face, then to the fog rolling in thicker by the minute, and down to her own hands, which were growing numb from the biting cold. And she considered the creed she'd lived by since her divorce. Be self-sufficient. Don't let your guard down. Never trust anyone. Never need anyone. It had been her armor. It had also been her cage. "Thank you, that would be a huge help." 20 minutes later, Linda found herself in the passenger seat of the Range Rover, cocooned in a heated blanket Andrew had fetched from the back, while Sophie slept soundly in her car seat. Help was en route for her broken-down Civic, and Andrew was driving them back toward the lights of town. "She was supposed to be with my assistant. I had a meeting back at the estate with some potential investors. Sophie was just playing into the garden with Maria, keeping an eye on her. But Maria got an urgent call that her own daughter was sick at school, so she asked a groundskeeper to watch Sophie for just 5 minutes while she sorted it out." 5 minutes. And that's all it took for Sophie to wander off, probably looking for the horses. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "The main gate to the estate is only a quarter of a mile from where you found her. She must have just walked right down the driveway and onto the road." Linda could hear the self-blame thick in his voice. The endless loop of what-ifs he was replaying in his mind. "She's okay now. That's all that matters." "I was searching for 45 minutes. I had 20 people looking for her. The police were on their way. And the entire time, all I could think about was," he trailed off, his jaw tight, "about what my wife passed away 5 years ago. It was cancer. The very last thing I promised her was that I would always keep Sophie safe, that I could be enough for both of them." His voice was thick with raw emotion. "Today I broke that promise. You didn't break anything. Sophie is a 5-year-old. They explore. This kind of thing happens. You had someone watching her. You started searching right away. You did everything you could. So why does it feel like I nearly lost my entire world? For that, Linda had no answer. She understood the feeling of losing everything: her marriage, her mother, her own identity. But this was something else entirely. This was the terror every parent dreads, and she couldn't begin to fathom that kind of fear. So where can I drop you? My plan was to head back to San Francisco, but at this point, anywhere with a bus depot or a car rental agency would be a lifesaver. San Francisco is a good hour and a half from here, and the garage won't even look at your car until tomorrow, realistically. The least I can do is buy you dinner. Please let me. Linda glanced over her shoulder at Sophie, who was now sleeping soundly, her little face completely at peace. You don't have to do that. I know I don't have to, but I want to if you'll let me. Her instinct was to decline. What could she possibly have in common with a billionaire widower from wine country? All she had was a dead car, a botched job interview, and a life in San Francisco that felt more like a routine than a real existence. But there was a kindness in his eyes. His daughter was safe because of her, and she was just so profoundly tired of turning everything down. All right, dinner. The place Andrew picked wasn't some flashy tourist trap with a pretentious prix-fixe menu and a sommelier. It was a cozy little Italian joint in downtown Napa, the type of place with checkered tablecloths and framed photos of the owner's family covering the walls. Sophie stirred just long enough to devour half a bowl of pasta before drifting off again, this time resting her head in Andrew's lap. Linda found herself watching the absent-minded way he stroked his daughter's hair as they spoke, his long fingers so gentle. So what brought you all the way to Napa? Aside from the car, giving out, I mean. A job interview at a private school. I didn't get it. Well, that's their loss. You have no idea if I'm even a decent teacher. You discovered my missing daughter and kept her from harm instead of giving in to panic. That shows you're patient. You're level-headed under pressure. And Sophie felt safe with you right away. Children have a sense about people. He paused. What subject do you teach English literature? At least I used to. Her words faded. Before. Linda took a slow sip of wine, buying herself a moment. She rarely discussed this with anyone, let alone a stranger, but there was something different about Andrew Hamilton. Perhaps it was the raw vulnerability she'd witnessed when he was reunited with Sophie, or maybe it was the way he had wept openly, without shame, that made her feel she could be honest. After my divorce, I took a step back to try and figure out who I was without my identity being tied to someone else. It turns out that's a longer process than you might imagine. Andrew gave a slow, understanding nod. My wife passed when Sophie was just 6 months old. There are still days I have no idea who I am without her. 5 years. That's a heavy burden to carry for so long. So is 3 years. How long has it been since your divorce was final? How did you know it's been 3 years? It was the way you said it, like you've been marking the days. A surprised laugh escaped Linda. You're very perceptive. I have to be. In business and as a father, you have to learn how to read situations and people. So what's your read on me? Andrew held her gaze for a long moment, his expression serious. I see someone who has spent so much time taking care of others. You've forgotten how to let someone else take care of you. Linda's breath hitched in her throat. His words were too sharp, too close to a truth she had been actively ignoring. That's quite a conclusion to draw from a single roadside breakdown. Perhaps. Or perhaps it takes one to know one. Sophie shifted in her sleep, murmuring something about ponies. Andrew adjusted his position to make her more comfortable. And in that small gesture, Linda saw how this little girl was the center of his universe. She remembered his frantic, near-hour-long search. She saw the way he couldn't seem to stop touching her now that she was back, as if needing the constant physical reassurance. You're a wonderful father. I'm trying to be. Some days I feel like I'm failing miserably. Like today. Today you had 20 people searching for her within moments. You had the police on the way. You did absolutely everything right. The only thing that went wrong was a curious 5-year-old and a groundskeeper who lost sight of her for 30 seconds. That isn't a failure. That's just how life is sometimes. Is that what you tell yourself when things don't go as planned? No. My go-to is to blame myself for everything and then fall into a depressive spiral for a few days. A genuine smile spread across Andrew's face, completely changing his expression. I appreciate the honesty. What else do you appreciate? The question slipped out before Linda could catch it, and she felt a flush of heat crawl up her neck. I just mean I appreciate that you stayed with Sophie when your car wouldn't start and it was getting cold. I appreciate that you used your own coat to keep her warm. I appreciate that you didn't think twice about helping even though it meant you'd be stuck here even longer. And I appreciate that you accepted my offer of help instead of letting pride get in the way. Linda's heart was hammering against her ribs. That's quite a list of appreciations for someone you just met. Maybe I'm a quick study. Their eyes locked across the table. With Sophie sleeping so soundly between them, Linda felt a warmth inside her. Like a long, frozen part of her heart was finally beginning to thaw, letting a little light peek through. Andrew took her to a hotel downtown, and despite her objections, he insisted on covering the cost of her room. Your car died because you were helping my daughter. The absolute least I can do is get you a safe place to stay for the night. That isn't exactly cause and effect, you know, but a smile played on her lips. It is in my book. The hotel was definitely pleasant, not billionaire-level luxury, but it was cozy and clean. Linda clutched her purse and the blazer she had grabbed from Sophie's car seat as she stood in the lobby, suddenly feeling out of place. Thank you for the meal, the room, the lift, and for your kindness. Thank you for finding Sophie, for making sure she was all right, and for being in the right place at the right time. You're not one to believe in fate, are you? Andrew looked down at his daughter, who had woken up and was now clinging to his hand. I used to think I wasn't, but I'm starting to reconsider. Linda knelt to be at eye level with the little girl. You be a good girl for your daddy. Okay? No more running off on your own. Am I going to see you again? The hopeful tone in Sophie's question made Linda's heart ache. I'm not sure, sweetie. You have to come to my daddy's house. We've got horses. I can introduce you. Linda glanced up at Andrew, expecting him to gently intervene and manage his daughter's expectations. But he was looking at Linda with an expression she found difficult to decipher. She has a point. You should come by the estate. Let me give you a proper tour. Thank you. And Sophia can show you the horses. This isn't charity. It's entirely selfish. I was hoping I could see you again, Linda Peterson, if you'd be open to it. And there it was. This wasn't about gratitude or obligation. It was just straightforward, genuine interest. For 3 years, Linda had built up walls. For 3 years, her answer was always no. For 3 years, she chose a life that was safe, small, and solitary. I'd love that. I'd really like to see you again, too. As Andrew smiled, Sophie let out a little cheer. And out there in the fog-draped hills of Napa Valley, Linda sensed the first bloom of new possibilities. A little later, standing before the mirror in her hotel room, she was second-guessing absolutely everything. The jeans and the soft green sweater she had intended to wear for the drive home now seemed far too casual for a visit to a billionaire's estate. Then again, it wasn't like she was trying to impress him. It was just a way to say thank you, an opportunity for Sophie to show her the horses, and that was all. A mantra she'd repeated to herself 17 times since getting up. Her phone vibrated. The auto shop had called an hour before telling her the Civic needed a new alternator and battery, plus a few other things that would take 2 days and cost well over what she'd planned for the month. She had okayed the repairs since she didn't have any other option. But now she was doing mental math, trying to figure out how to cover her rent and thinking she should probably cancel the visit and just get a bus ticket home. The phone buzzed once more. It was a text from an unfamiliar number. Asterisk, good morning. It's Andrew. Maria from the tow company gave me your number from the paperwork. I hope that's all right. Sophie has been asking about you nonstop since she got up. Is there any chance you're still free for that tour of the estate? I could come get you at 10 o'clock. Linda checked the time, 9:30. She had 30 minutes to figure out if she was actually going through with this. Her thumb hesitated over the keyboard. She could easily come up with an excuse. Tell him her car was fixed. Tell him she needed to head back to the city. She could say anything at all to retreat back to the security of her little apartment and her meticulously managed life. But instead she typed asterisk 10 o'clock works. I'll be downstairs in the lobby. Asterisk. 3 years of saying no. Perhaps it was time to try saying yes. Andrew arrived in a different car, this one a dark blue Tesla that glided silently to a stop at the hotel entrance. From the back seat, Sophie was practically quivering with excitement as Linda got into the passenger side. Miss Linda, you made it. Daddy said you might be too busy, but I knew you would come. Linda turned around to beam at the little girl. I promised I'd come see the horses, didn't I? We have 6 of them, and also chickens and a cat named Merlot. You named your cat after wine. Andrew had the good sense to look a bit sheepish. Sophie was too. We were doing a tasting of the new vintage. She saw the cat I was holding, a glass of Merlot, and she just put the two together. The name stuck. Linda let out a real spontaneous laugh that took her by surprise. That's actually really adorable. Don't encourage her. She's already convinced every animal needs a wine-themed name. Last week, she was trying to persuade me that we should get a bomb and name it Chardonnay. I still think Chardonnay is a great name. Andrew's eyes met Linda's and a warm, unspoken connection passed between them. This effortless sense of family, the light-hearted banter, it all felt incredibly dangerous. It felt like it was leading somewhere she didn't dare let herself hope for. The drive to his estate was about 20 minutes weaving along roads that twisted through rolling hills covered with dormant grapevines. That November morning was cloudless. There was no fog, only a crisp autumn breeze and a warm golden light. Andrew pointed out various landmarks as they drove other wineries' restaurants. He gestured to a place where some movie she'd never seen had been filmed. "You really love it out here, don't you?" "I do. I was raised in Chicago, all concrete and crowds. The first time I came to Napa, I was 26 and felt completely adrift. I had just walked away from my corporate job, had a bit of cash from a tech startup I'd sold, and had zero idea what to do next. I went on a wine tour, met a vintner who needed investors, and everything just fell into place. And now you're the owner of one of the Valley's most acclaimed wineries. Now I get to make wine and raise my daughter in a place that feels like peace itself." He glanced her way. "What about you? What led you to teaching English literature?" "My mom. She worked as a librarian in Oakland. She would read to me every single night. Shakespeare, Morris, and Angelo Baldwin. She made words come alive with magic." She trailed off, feeling that familiar pang of loss. She passed away 6 years ago. Cancer. "I suppose I became a teacher because I wanted to share what she gave me with other kids." Andrew's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "I'm sorry, losing a parent leaves a unique kind of hole. So does losing a spouse. Yeah, it really does." For a moment, they continued the drive in a silence that wasn't uncomfortable but was heavy with a shared sense of understanding. Two people who both knew the ache of losing someone you love. Sophie's excited voice broke the quiet. "We're almost there, Miss Linda. Just wait till you see the house." The Hamilton estate was not at all what Linda had pictured. Sure, it was enormous, a sprawling California ranch-style house with accents of stone and wood and floor-to-ceiling windows, but it didn't feel cold or pretentious. It had a warm, lived-in quality. Toys were scattered about the front porch, a garden grew with a wild and lovely abandon, and those promised horses were grazing in a pasture just past the main house. "Welcome." Andrew said the simple word as he opened her door, but it felt like it held so much more meaning. The instant her shoes touched the gravel drive, Sophie snatched Linda's hand. Come on," she urged horses first. Linda let the little girl tow her along, keenly aware of Andrew following close behind his presence, a solid comforting warmth at her back. Sophie brought them to a beautiful white fence where 6 horses of different colors stood observing them with a mild curiosity. "That one's Cabernet, and that's Pinot, Syrah, Zinfandel, Sangioves, and Riesling," Sophie said, pointing at each in turn. "They're all names of wines," Linda chuckled. "Daddy says it's on brand," Sophie declared with such gravity that Linda nearly sputtered. The child clearly had no clue what the phrase meant. "I was on a conference call once, she overheard me say it, and now it's her favorite phrase," he explained. "That's very on brand for you," Sophie informed Linda with a solemn nod. Linda couldn't contain herself. She just burst into laughter. Andrew came over to lean on the fence next to her, so close she could smell his cologne, a rich, woodsy scent. "Sophie, how about you go grab the carrots from the barn? You can teach Linda the right way to feed them," he suggested. Sophie immediately took off at a sprint. She was a whirlwind of boundless 5-year-old energy. "She's incredible," Linda said. "You've done such a fantastic job raising her." "I give it my all," he replied. "But there are moments I wonder if it's good enough, if I'm good enough." Her mother would have known exactly how to comfort Sophie when she suddenly became afraid of the dark last month. She would have had the perfect solution for the little bully in Sophie's kindergarten class. She would have... He trailed off, his jaw clenching tightly. "She would have been so thankful that Sophie has a father who adores her this much," Linda said softly. "One who stays awake at night worrying, who spends nearly an hour searching frantically in the fog, or her who names every single animal after a type of wine just to make her smile." When Andrew turned to face her, the raw vulnerability in his gaze made her heart ache. "How do you do that?" he asked. "Do what you say, precisely the thing I need to hear." "Perhaps it's because I understand what it's like to doubt if you're enough. When my ex-husband had his affair, it forced me to question every single thing about who I was. Was I not fun enough? Not pretty enough? Just not enough? Full stop, she said, shaking her head. It took 2 years of therapy for me to finally accept that his decisions were never a reflection of my worth. He might have been a fool, sure, but he was also just a person. We were looking for different things in life. He craved adventure and newness. I was ready for stability and a true partner. We just didn't work together anymore. So what is it that you want now? The query lingered in the space between them, buzzing with potential. Linda gazed at this man so wealthy, so full of grief, so handsome, who had wept for his lost little girl and given his cat a wine name, and she felt another wall of ice inside her crack and give way. I'm not sure yet. I've spent the last 3 years just trying to find out who I am on my own. Maybe now is the time to see who I might be with someone else. Andrew's expression deepened as he stepped a little closer. Linda, I've got the carrots, Sophie announced, running back toward them with her arms overflowing, and the spell was broken. Yet Linda could still feel the charged energy hanging in the air, like a breath being held. They passed the next hour giving treats to horses gathering eggs and being introduced to Merlot, who happened to be a huge ginger tabby with a purr that rumbled like a small motor. Sophie provided a running commentary for everything, her cheerful voice bridging the quiet gaps between Linda and Andrew, which made the whole experience feel less like a first meeting and more like a dress rehearsal for a life together. Are you getting hungry? I was thinking of making some lunch. You can cook? Try not to sound so surprised. Even billionaires know how to work a stove. It's not that, Linda said, feeling a blush creep up her neck. I guess I just pictured you having a whole team of people to handle everything. Just a little, Andrew asked with a grin. I have Maria, who helps out part-time, a guy who does the grounds 3 days a week, and a cleaning crew that comes twice a month. But I'm the one who cooks, does the laundry, and I make a mean grilled cheese. That is a highly specialized talent. It's Sophie's absolute favorite meal. I've had a lot of practice. As they headed back toward the main house, Linda fought the urge to stare while Andrew led them into a grand living room with high-vaulted ceilings and rustic exposed beams. The room was stunning, yet clearly well-loved. Sophie's artwork was taped to the refrigerator, books were piled on the coffee table, and a basket of clean, unfolded clothes sat on the sofa. Sorry for the state of things, Andrew said quickly, grabbing the laundry basket. Please don't apologize. It just proves you're human. And what's the alternative? A flawless billionaire whose bed is always made and who never has a single dirty dish in the sink. Oh, I have plenty of both, believe me. Sophie had already vanished up the stairs, shouting that she was going to get her dolls to introduce to Linda. This left Linda and Andrew by themselves in the enormous kitchen, complete with its commercial-grade appliances and polished marble countertops. Can I do anything? She offered. You can just stay and talk to me. Tell me something honest. Honest? Yeah, something true about Linda Peterson that I wouldn't pick up in casual small talk. Linda leaned back against the counter, watching him move. His movements were sure and skillful. She briefly wondered what other things he was good at with those hands before shutting the thought down. Okay, honest. I'm terrified. Andrew paused, looking up from the block of cheese he was slicing. Of what? Of me. Of this. Of you. Of the way Sophie already looks at me as if I'm a fixture in her life. Of the way you were looking at me out by the horses like you were about to lean in and kiss me, and I couldn't decide if I wanted you to, or if the idea scared me to death. She drew in a sharp breath. I'm 40 years old and I feel like an awkward teenager. It's completely absurd. It's not absurd at all, he said, placing the knife on the counter and closing the distance between them. Want to hear the honest truth? Linda could only nod, afraid her voice would break. It's been 5 years since I've even wanted to kiss anyone. All I've felt is this crushing weight of sorrow, duty, and pure burnout. But then you emerged from that fog holding my daughter's hand, and something inside me that I was sure had died long ago stirred back to life. His hand moved slowly, giving her every chance to back away as he gently tucked a loose piece of hair behind her ear. So yes, I was going to kiss you, and then I panicked just like you. Why did you panic? Because Sophie is already so fond of you. And because I have no idea how to navigate this dating thing, this relationship, whatever it is we're doing. Because I lost my wife and I made a promise to her that I would stay strong for Sophie. I'm not even sure if I have the right to feel happy again. Tears stung Linda's eyes. Andrew, but when I'm around you, I feel like I want to try. I want to find a way. I want to explore this with you. I have no money. I mean, seriously none. The bill for my car is going to drain every penny I have saved. I'm unemployed. My apartment is tiny and it's in a rough part of town. I just, I don't belong in your life. None of that matters to me. But it should. I'm a complete mess. You're the kind of woman who stops for a lost little girl in the middle of the fog. You're the person who has conversations with herself while driving. You're a teacher whose passion for books was a gift from her mother. You're someone who has been through pain and yet still has the courage to stand right here with me. He cradled her face in his hand. Linda, it's not about you fitting into my world. What I'm asking is, maybe you'll let me be a part of yours. A single tear escaped and rolled down her face, and Andrew gently wiped it away with his thumb. I just don't know how. Neither do I, he whispered. But maybe we can learn how to do it together. Daddy, Miss Linda, I found my best doll and, oh. They both spun around to see Sophie standing in the entryway clutching a doll and staring at them with enormous, curious eyes. Are you about to kiss Miss Linda? Andrew let out a laugh, a sound that was both startled and utterly real. Would you be okay with that? Sophie thought about it very carefully. Sophie, if you kiss her, will she stay? Because I really want her to. She's kind, she smells nice, and she didn't get upset when I was crying. I really think we should keep her. Linda felt her heart break wide open. Honey, it's not quite that easy. But why you love Daddy, don't you? And you like me, and we both like you, so you should live here. Out of the mouths of babes, Andrew whispered. Linda gazed at the man, the child and the future being offered to her, feeling a war rage between hope and terror inside her chest. For 3 years, she'd kept herself safe. For 3 years, she'd been on her own. For 3 years, she had been mending. Perhaps it was finally time to risk living again. I like you both a great deal, but adult relationships are complicated. Your father and I only just met yesterday, but you rescued me. That makes you special. She is special, incredibly special. Andrew said, his gaze fixed on Linda. The buzz of the kitchen timer shattered the moment. Andrew's grilled cheese was done, but something much bigger was happening. The first pieces were falling into place, laying the groundwork for a story Linda hadn't known she was prepared to write. The three of them eating at the kitchen island felt so normal, so easy, so right. Sophie chattered away about school, her love for horses, and her upcoming birthday celebration. Andrew shared anecdotes of winemaking mishaps and fussy celebrity clients with absurd requests. Linda realized she was laughing more freely than she had in what felt like a lifetime. So when their lunch concluded and Sophie asked if Linda could also stay for dinner, Linda's eyes met Andrew's and saw the same hope reflected there. I would love that. If that's all right with your dad. It's more than all right. And so Linda stayed. They played with Sophie's collection of dolls, strolled together through the vineyard, and watched the sun dip below the horizon from the patio as Sophie sat at their feet drawing pictures. And as the stars began to blanket Napa Valley, Andrew escorted Linda to her car, which he'd arranged to have brought back from the garage completely fixed with the bill settled in full. Andrew, you really shouldn't have. I wanted to. Please let me do this for you. Linda looked at this man who had covered the cost of her car repairs, her hotel room, and her food, and she didn't see charity. She saw genuine care, not an obligation, but a choice. Thank you for all of this. Will I get to see you again? I mean, really see you? Not just a visit to say thanks. I live in San Francisco. And you're all the way out here. It's an hour-and-a-half drive. I can make the drive. You're a billionaire with a 5-year-old daughter. You can't just, Linda, I want to see you again. Do you want to see me too? It was a straightforward question that needed a simple yes or no, but it felt like stepping off the edge of a cliff. Yes. A smile completely transformed Andrew's face. Then we will sort out the details. He paused, then leaned forward to give her a gentle kiss on the cheek. Drive safely. Send me a text when you're home. You sound like a concerned father. I am a father, but at this moment, I'm also just a guy who met someone incredible, and I'm desperately hoping I haven't just ruined this. You didn't ruin it. This was truly lovely, Andrew. Lovely, I'll take it. As Linda drove from the Hamilton property, tears welled in her eyes while a warmth spread through her chest. In her rearview mirror, she saw Andrew in the driveway holding Sophie on his hip, both of them waving goodbye. And for the first time in 3 long years, Linda allowed herself to feel hope. 10 days after her visit to the Hamilton estate, Linda was in her small San Francisco apartment marking up practice essays for her new tutoring students and fighting the urge to glance at her phone every 30 seconds. Andrew had messaged her that morning, thinking of you. Sophie made another drawing for you. She's demanding I get it framed. Linda couldn't help but grin at her phone like a smitten teenager, her heart doing that ridiculous fluttery dance it had been doing ever since she left Napa. They had been in touch daily, exchanging texts all day long, followed by the phone calls late at night after Sophie was asleep. Andrew would talk about the grape harvest in corporate meetings while Linda would share stories about her new tutoring work and the students who were finally starting to open up to her. It felt natural and comfortable, yet utterly terrifying because each conversation left her wanting more. The sound of his voice instantly brought back the image of how he had looked at her near the horse paddock. And whenever Sophie jumped on the call to recount the latest kindergarten drama, Linda felt herself being pulled deeper into a world she didn't belong to. Her phone vibrated, a new message from Andrew. "What are your plans for this Saturday?" Linda glanced around her tiny living space, 400 square feet of mismatched furniture and book towers she kept meaning to sort through. Maybe she could finally deal with the boxes she was still living out of, but unpacking felt too final, like admitting that this was truly her life now. "Nothing major," she typed in reply. "Why do you ask?" The phone rang almost instantly. She picked up on the second ring, trying to hide her eagerness. "Hello? Hello to you too. I want to take you out on a proper date, not a thank you dinner, not a meal with my 5-year-old as a chaperone. A real date, just the two of us." Linda's stomach did a somersault. "Andrew, you know it's complicated. I know you're in the city and I'm out here, but I haven't been able to get you off my mind for 10 straight days, and I have to believe that means something. It's only been 10 days, we hardly know each other. So let's change that. Come to dinner with me on Saturday. I'll drive into San Francisco and pick you up at 7. We can go somewhere nice, just talk, and see if this spark between us is real, or if we're both just lonely and mixed up." Linda desperately wanted to agree. The desire to say yes was a physical ache, but she was paralyzed by fear. "I don't own anything suitable for a nice place. Linda, I wouldn't care if you came in sweatpants. I just want to be with you." "That's easy for you to say. You're a billionaire. You could probably wear sweatpants to a 5-star place, and they'd still give you the best table." There was a pause on Andrew's end. "This isn't really about the clothes, is it?" Linda squeezed her eyes shut. "I don't know how to fit into your world, Andrew. I can barely make my rent. I'm helping high schoolers with their essays for $20 an hour. I buy my clothes at Target." "I do too. Do you really think I care about any of that?" "You should. Our backgrounds are completely different. My dad was a mechanic in Chicago. I shared a 2-bedroom apartment with my 4 siblings. I wore hand-me-downs until I was 16. I juggled 3 jobs just to afford community college before I got a scholarship to Northwestern." He let that sink in. "I remember what it's like to count every single penny, Linda. I know exactly how it feels to be in a room where you think you don't belong and everyone else seems so at ease. Having money now doesn't wipe away those memories." Tears started to well up in Linda's eyes. "I never knew that about you." "That's because we've only talked on the phone for 10 days without the chance to truly get to know one another. That's what this Saturday is about. Please let me take you to dinner. All I want is to show you I'm just a guy who's interested in an amazing woman. Everything else is just static. How about Sophie? Sophie is with my sister in Sacramento this weekend. It's a monthly arrangement that frees me up to handle estate matters, which means on Saturday night all my attention can be on you." Linda's gaze drifted around her apartment, surveying the life she had pieced together from the ruins of her divorce. It was small, it was safe, and it was lonely. She had been so proud of herself just for getting through it. But was getting through it the same as living, "Okay, Saturday at 7. She could hear the warmth in Andrew's voice. "Yeah, yes, but Andrew, to be honest, this terrifies me." "Me too, but I find that the best things in life usually do." Saturday seemed to arrive both too quickly and not nearly soon enough. Linda went through 5 different outfits before landing on a simple black dress she had bought for her mother's funeral 6 years ago and never worn again. It was a snug fit, but it worked. With her good heels and the pearl earrings her mother had willed to her, she almost looked the part of someone going on a date with a billionaire. Almost. At precisely 7 o'clock, a knock sounded at her door. Linda drew a steadying breath, smoothed her dress a final time, and opened it. Andrew was in the hallway dressed in a dark gray suit that was tailored to perfection. His hair was just a little damp as if from a recent shower, and he was holding a bouquet of flowers that weren't roses. Dahlias, she realized. A sophisticated and unexpected combination of deep burgundy and cream. "Hi," he said. You look absolutely beautiful. You don't look so bad yourself, Linda replied, taking the flowers. These are stunning. How did you know dahlias were my favorite? I didn't, he admitted. But roses felt like a cliché, and the florist mentioned that dahlias symbolize dignity and elegance. It seemed to fit. Linda felt a thaw deep in her chest. This man with all his resources had selected flowers based on their significance, not their price tag. Let me get these in some water. She stepped aside to let him into her small apartment. Andrew came inside and Linda watched as his eyes took in the room. The well-loved couch, the bookshelves overflowing with stories, the kitchen that was barely more than a closet. She braced for the flicker of judgment, that subtle shift that always came when the wealthy saw how ordinary people lived. But instead, Andrew walked over to her bookshelves and smiled. Morrison Baldwin Angelou Shakespeare, your mother's influence. You remembered. I remember everything you tell me, Linda. He gently slid out a worn copy of Beloved. This is a first edition. It was my mom's. She gave it to me for my college graduation. Andrew handled the book as if it were precious. My sister's the real bookworm in our family. I should introduce you. She would adore talking about literature with you. You want me to meet your sister at some point at that point? Yeah, he said softly. If this goes where I'm hoping it will. He carefully slid the book back into its spot and turned to her. Ready for dinner. Linda picked up her purse, trying to will her hands to stop shaking. Where are we going? It's a surprise. You'll have to trust me. And that was really the heart of the matter, wasn't it? Could she trust him? Could she even trust herself? Could she believe this wouldn't end with her heart shattered all over again? I'm trying, she whispered. Andrew's expression softened into one of deep empathy. He reached out, his warm, strong fingers wrapping around hers. That's all I'm asking. The restaurant was located in North Beach, hidden away on a quiet street Linda had passed 100 times before without a second glance. It was small and intimate with gentle lighting and Italian opera playing softly in the distance. It was the type of place that didn't need to advertise. The hostess recognized Andrew instantly. Mr. Hamilton, your table is waiting. They were guided to the corner booth with a clear view of the street, offering privacy without feeling secluded. Andrew pulled out Linda's chair, waiting for her to be seated before taking his own. Do you come here often? A couple of times a year when business brings me to the city. The owner is from Tuscany. He actually gets his ingredients from the same suppliers we have at the estate. Andrew closed his menu. Order anything you like, and please don't pay any attention to the prices. That's easy for you to say, Linda murmured. Andrew paused until she met his eyes. I asked you to be my guest tonight. That means it's on me. Not because I think you can't, but because it's something I want to do. So please let me do this without it becoming a negotiation. Okay. Linda breathed out, resisting the powerful urge to argue to go Dutch to defend her independence. But she had promised herself she would try to let someone take care of her. Okay, thank you. You are very welcome. Now the osso buco here is out of this world, but the seafood risotto is just as incredible. You can't make a bad choice. They gave their order with Linda opting for the risotto. Andrew chose the osso buco, and then they were alone again, separated by nothing more than a table and a pair of wine glasses. So after 10 days of phone calls, I still feel like there's a universe of things I don't know about you. Like what, for instance? Like what it was that made you fall in love with teaching, what your home was like before the one you're in now. What you do on a Sunday morning when the day is all yours. Linda couldn't help but smile in spite of her nerves. That's quite a list of questions. We have all night. So Linda found herself telling him about her first teaching assignment in an Oakland public school where nearly half her kids were reading below their grade level and the school had no money for books. She spoke about the cozy apartment she had shared with her mother before she was married, where Sunday mornings were for drinking tea and reading poetry. She told him about the bigger house she'd later shared with her ex-husband, how she'd painted every wall and selected every piece of furniture, building a life that crumbled the day she saw texts from another woman on his phone. I couldn't be there after the divorce, she explained. Every single thing in that house reminded me of the lie we were living, so I found the smallest place I could, packed almost nothing, and told myself I was getting a fresh start. But you never really finished unpacking, he observed gently. It wasn't a question. Linda looked up at him, surprised. How did you... The boxes in your bedroom. I saw them still taped up when you went to put the flowers in water. You're very observant. You've said that before, he replied. Andrew reached over the table and covered her hand with his. What are you afraid is going to happen if you finally unpack? That I'll let myself get comfortable, she said, her voice strained. That I'll start to feel like I'm settled, that I'll build my whole life up again just to watch it get torn down. Linda's voice caught in her throat. I know it's not logical. It's not illogical at all. It's called self-protection. Andrew's thumb gently brushed over her knuckles. But you can't spend your entire life waiting for the other shoe to drop, Linda. Says the man who hasn't dated anyone in 5 years. Andrew offered a wry smile. Fair point. Fine. We're both a little broken. At least we can be broken together side by side. Is that what we are, side by side? Linda looked down at their intertwined hands, then up at this man who had driven 90 minutes for a meal with her, who remembered her favorite writer and brought her flowers that had a special meaning. I don't know what we are yet, she admitted, but I think I'd really like to find out. Me too. At that moment, their food was served and the conversation drifted towards safer shores. Andrew shared Sophie's newest ambition, to be a veterinarian. She's only 5. A month ago, her big dream was to be a princess. In return, Linda described her toughest tutoring case, a gifted boy who despised reading, before she introduced him to the world of graphic novels. You have a real talent for that, for finding a way to connect with people. My mother taught me. She used to say every person has a story that resonates with them. Your job is just to discover it. She sounds like a wise woman. The wisest. Linda's smile was tinged with sadness. There isn't a day I don't miss her, but it's hitting me hard right now. Why now specifically? Because she would have absolutely adored you. She would have looked right past the wealth and the expensive suit to see the man who weeps with relief when his daughter is found. The guy who names his cat after a type of wine. The father who is struggling to be everything for the little girl who depends on him. A sheen of moisture formed in Andrew's eyes. I really wish I'd had the chance to meet her. Me too. They took their time with the rest of the meal, enjoying the food, the talk, and the feeling that everything else had faded away, leaving only the two of them. The bill arrived in a leather folio and Andrew took care of it without any fuss. Linda didn't protest. She was starting to understand. Come for a walk with me. The weather is perfect. They strolled hand in hand through North Beach, passing by cozy cafes, bookshops, and art galleries. A San Francisco November evening can be chilly, so Andrew slipped off his jacket and without a word placed it around Linda's shoulders. You'll catch your death of cold. I'm okay, really. Then why are you shivering? For a few minutes, they continued on in a comfortable silence, simply enjoying each other's presence. Linda inhaled the subtle scent of his cologne from the jacket, felt his warm hand holding hers, and thought about all the boxes she'd left sealed in the existence she'd been too afraid to embrace. Andrew, what is this? He came to a halt and turned towards her, bringing his hands up to gently frame her face. My hope is that we're building something genuine, something with a future, but it's a 90-minute drive between us. I've traveled much longer distances for a wine tasting, and Sophie is completely smitten with you. She never stops asking about you. She's drawn you 17 pictures that are now plastered all over my fridge. And your world, my world, they're poles apart. Andrew's tone was firm yet kind. Are you searching for excuses for this to fail? Or are you just terrified that it might actually succeed? Linda felt her eyes well up. The second one. Okay, then let me ask you a question. When my name pops up on your phone at night, do you find yourself smiling before you even pick up? Yes. And when you think of me, does it bring you joy? Or does it feel like a chore joy? It feels wonderful. And when you picture your future, any version of it, do you see me there? Linda shut her eyes tightly. Yes. Then you need to stop resisting this. Stop searching for an exit. I am not your ex-husband. I will never deceive you or be unfaithful or make you doubt your own worth. You are more than enough, Linda. You're intelligent, kind-hearted, stunning, and completely genuine. And the truth is I'm falling for you so fast it terrifies me. Andrew, I know this is happening quickly. I know there are complications. I'm aware we have practical issues to sort out, a child to consider, and 1,000 reasons this could all go wrong. His thumbs gently wiped away the tears now streaming down her face. But what I also know is that for 5 long years, I've just been going through the motions. And then you walked out of the way holding my daughter's hand, and my whole world shifted. So please just give this a chance. Give me a chance. Linda gazed up at him, this handsome, wounded, courageous man who was laying at her feet everything she had been too afraid to even desire. And in that moment, she decided. She stood on her tiptoes and pressed her lips to his. There was nothing hesitant or cautious about it. It was 3 years of solitude, 10 days of late-night calls, and every emotion she'd kept locked away. A deep sound rumbled in Andrew's chest as he drew her in tighter, one hand tangling in her hair as the other settled firmly on the small of her back. Their kiss was hungry, as if trying to reclaim lost years, as if they were forging a silent vow. It was a kiss that said they were both finally ready to risk everything for something more than just being safe. When they eventually separated, breathless Andrew leaned his forehead against hers. So I take it that's a yes. That's a yes. I'm absolutely petrified, and this is likely a disastrous plan, and I can't imagine how we'll manage it. But yes, let's give it a try. We'll find a way. Together. And right there on a street corner in San Francisco, wrapped in his jacket with his arms holding her close, Linda finally allowed herself to believe it was possible. Hey everyone, if you've followed the story this far, I hope it touched your heart. Please share your thoughts and let me know where you're tuning in from in the comments below. And don't forget to give this video a like and click that subscribe button if you're new here. If this story resonated with you, go ahead and smash that like button. It's a huge help for the channel. 3 weeks to the day after that first kiss, Linda was staring at her reflection in the bathroom mirror at 6 in the morning, desperately trying to calm the anxiety attack building inside her. Andrew would be there to get her in just 2 hours. They were heading to his estate because Sophie had been pleading to see her again, and Andrew had finally invited her, saying, "Why don't you come spend the weekend with us? Get a real feel for what our life could be." A whole weekend at his home with his daughter. Things were escalating quickly, far too quickly. It had only been 3 weeks of them officially being a couple, and she was already being woven into the fabric of his world, of Sophie's world, a world of guest suites, professional gardeners, and private wine cellars. Her phone vibrated on the counter. It was a message from Andrew. "Morning, gorgeous. Coffee is my treat. I'll see you in a bit." Despite her nerves, Linda couldn't help but smile. Ever since their first date, Andrew had made the trip to San Francisco every weekend, guiding her through farmers markets, museums, and quiet coffee shops, where they could lose themselves in conversation for hours. He was so patient with all her anxieties, giving her space when she was overwhelmed and offering comfort when she felt unsure. He would show her Sophie's newest art creations, share stories from his week, and he would listen. He genuinely paid attention when she spoke about her students, her mother, or the boxes that had remained sealed for so long. Just last weekend, he helped her get through 3 of them. He never pressured her, just sat with her on the apartment floor, carefully folding her mom's quilts and organizing her books on the shelves, somehow making the idea of settling down feel secure. She had started to cry, and he had just held her. They got some takeout, watched classic films on her little couch, and it all felt completely and utterly normal. This, however, was a whole different story. This was his world, his daughter, his entire life. Linda inhaled deeply and grabbed her overnight bag. She was capable of this. She truly wanted this. The doorbell chimed at precisely 8. Andrew was standing in the hallway with 2 coffees, dressed in jeans and a navy sweater that made his eyes seem unbelievably vibrant. Hey there." Linda accepted the coffee he held out. "You're irritatingly on time. It's one of my many weaknesses." He leaned over, giving her a soft kiss that tasted of mint in the morning. "Are you ready?" "About as ready as I'm going to get." The drive to Napa went by more smoothly than Linda had anticipated. Their conversation drifted from one thing to another, covering everything and nothing at all. They talked about Andrew's plans for the harvest, Linda's recent success with a student who hated reading, and a podcast they were both obsessed with. The conversation flowed between them with its usual effortless ease. Yet as they turned into the estate's driveway and Linda spotted Sophie practically vibrating with excitement on the front porch, a familiar knot of anxiety tightened in her stomach. "She's been up since 6 o'clock. I couldn't even get her to eat. She was so worked up." "No pressure at all," Linda murmured under her breath. Andrew gave her hand a gentle squeeze. "She already adores you, Linda. All you have to do is be you." The moment the engine cut, Sophie was a blur racing toward them. A tiny body slammed into Linda the second she opened her door. "Miss Linda, you came. You really, really came. Daddy said you were coming, but I wasn't sure because grown-ups say things and then they don't do them sometimes. But you're really actually here." Linda hugged the little girl close, breathing in the sweet scent of strawberry shampoo and childhood innocence. "I made a promise I would come, didn't I?" "You did. You kept your promise." Sophie leaned back, her face beaming. "I cleaned in my room and I picked you flowers and I made a bracelet And Daddy says we can bake cookies if you'd like. Sophie honey-breathed. Andrew chuckled gently, ruffling his daughter's hair. Why don't you let Linda get inside the house before you map out her entire visit? They headed indoors, Sophie clinging to Linda's hand and chattering away. The property wore late November differently. The grapevines were stark skeletons, and the air had a sharp bite, but the house itself was a pocket of warmth and welcome. Someone had placed a vase of fresh flowers in the foyer, and Linda could smell cinnamon and brewing coffee. I'll get your bag and show you to your room. I wanted to show her, Sophie insisted. Then by all means lead the way, sweetheart. Sophie seized Linda's hand once more and towed her up the stairs down a hallway lined with framed family pictures. Linda caught flashes of a much younger Andrew, a breathtakingly beautiful woman who had to have been his wife and a baby Sophie at various stages of her young life. The guest room located at the end of the hall was airy and filled with light, offering a stunning view of the vineyards. It featured a four-poster bed, a small sitting area, and an ensuite bathroom that was larger than Linda's kitchen back home. This is just gorgeous. Daddy put flowers in here for you, too. He said making you feel welcome was very important. Linda's eyes met Andrew's, who had the good grace to look a bit flustered. I just wanted to make sure you were comfortable. I am. Thank you so much. Sophie started pulling on her hand again. Come on, I have to show you my room now. The following hour was a complete whirlwind of 5-year-old energy. Linda was given the grand tour of Sophie's bedroom, a vibrant explosion of pink and purple horse posters and bookshelves overflowing with stories. She was shown the art studio Andrew had built in the sunroom, was introduced to every single chicken by its proper name, and had to solemnly swear to help collect eggs later that day. Andrew trailed them with a mug of coffee and a gentle smile, letting his daughter take charge. But Linda was constantly aware of his presence, a steady warmth at her back. When Sophie finally dashed into the garden to play, Linda and Andrew found themselves alone in the kitchen. She is wonderfully exhausting. She's been like a firecracker all week, just counting down the minutes until you arrived. Andrew stepped closer, his hands coming to rest on her waist. I've missed you. I saw you 4 days ago. Still missed you. He kissed her, first her forehead, then the tip of her nose, and finally her lips, slow and soft. How are you really? Is all this too much? It's a little bit much. Your home is the size of a small hotel. Your daughter has more energy than 3 grown people. And I'm just bracing for the moment you realize I don't belong in this picture. I know that stuff doesn't matter to you, but it's impossible not to feel the difference between your life and mine. Andrew pulled away just enough to look at her, his face serious. Can I tell you something completely true? Always. After my wife died, this house felt more like a tomb. It was beautiful, but it was empty and cold. I kept it all perfectly maintained for Sophie, but it stopped being a home. It was just a place we were existing. He cupped her face in his hands. But these last few weeks, knowing you were coming here, watching Sophie's entire world light up at the idea, this place has started to breathe again. You do that, Linda. You make everything warmer. Linda felt her eyes start to burn. That's not playing fair. You can't just say things like that when I'm trying so hard to protect my heart. Maybe I don't want you to protect it. Maybe I want you to risk it on me. Before Linda could form a reply, Sophie came barreling back inside. Daddy, Miss Linda, can we please bake the cookies now? Andrew and Linda separated, both smiling at the perfectly timed interruption. Cookies sound absolutely perfect. They spent the afternoon in the kitchen with Sophie positioned on a step stool between the two of them, seriously helping to measure out flour and crack eggs. Linda had braced for total chaos. Her experience baking with kids usually involved a fine layer of flour on everything and at least one temper tantrum. But this was completely different. Andrew and Sophie moved in a comfortable rhythm, a seamless partnership built over years of working side by side. Sophie knew where the measuring spoons lived. Andrew knew exactly how many chocolate chips she would try to pilfer. They navigated the space around one another with a natural grace. And as Linda joined their routine, it felt as if she had always been a part of their quiet choreography. You're really good at this, Andrew observed as Linda showed Sophie how to stir the dough. My mom and I used to bake together every Sunday. She made the absolute best peach cobbler in Oakland. The whole apartment building would fill with the smell of brown sugar and cinnamon. Can you teach me? Sophie gazed up at Linda with those enormous eyes. Teach you what, sweetheart? How to make the peach thing for Daddy. It's his favorite. Linda glanced at Andrew, who had gone completely still. I would absolutely love to teach you. Maybe the next time I come to visit, we can make one together. Promise, promise. Sophie launched herself at Linda, wrapping her flower-dusted arms around her waist. Linda felt something shift deep inside her chest. This sweet little girl who had lost her mother so young, who had been all alone in the fog just 1 month before, had looked at Linda and simply decided she was safe. This child was making a space for herself inside Linda's heart, and the thought was terrifying. Losing the people you cared about was the most exquisite pain in the world, and Linda had already known so much of it. But as she looked at Andrew over the top of Sophie's head and saw the depth of emotion in his eyes, Linda considered that perhaps this risk was one worth taking. That evening, long after Sophie was asleep and the kitchen was clean, Andrew and Linda sat on the patio swaddled in blankets, sharing a bottle of wine and watching the stars appear over the valley. Thank you for today, for being here, for being so incredible with Sophie. She makes it easy to be. She's a remarkable kid, Andrew. You've done such a good job with her. We did a good job, her mother and I. Even though she only got to be with her for 6 months, every single thing I do with Sophie is shaped by what Rachel would have wanted. It was the first time Andrew had ever said his wife's name to her. Linda felt the profound weight of that gesture, the trust it conveyed. Tell me about her if you want to. Andrew fell silent for a while, his fingertips idly drawing on the back of Linda's hand. Rachel was a powerhouse. She founded a nonprofit for women in the tech industry, and she simply wouldn't let anyone get in her way. She was so brilliant and ambitious, she made me want to be a better person. A sad smile touched his lips. We first met at a work conference. She was giving a speech on gender equality in Silicon Valley, and I was so in awe I almost didn't go up to her. But she caught me trying to slip out and trapped me by the coffee machine. Linda gave a little laugh. That's one way to meet. It was. She asked me what my job was, and when I told her I was a winemaker, she replied, "Is that all just wine?" as if it were the most mundane thing she could imagine. Andrew shook his head at the memory. I then spent the following hour trying to prove to her that wine was incredibly interesting. And by the time the night was over, we had arranged to go on a date. She sounds amazing, she was. And when she was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, 6 months pregnant at the time, she fought with everything she had. She managed to hang on through Sophie's birth, got to hold her for a couple of hours, and then his voice cracked. She made me swear that I would give Sophie everything. A loving home security, a wonderful life, that I wouldn't allow grief to diminish me. Linda squeezed his hand, her own eyes glistening with tears. You've honored that promise, Andrew. Sophie is cherished and secure and joyful thanks to you. These last couple of weeks seeing you with her, Linda, you're so good with her, so gentle and warm. She needs that kind of maternal presence. I can't provide everything she needs, regardless of how much I try. Andrew, I'm not attempting to take her mother's place, I know, and that's not what I want. But Sophie is growing very attached to you. And to be honest, I am too. So I have to know if you're okay with this, if you are open to being part of our world. Linda gazed out at the darkened vineyards, at the stars sprinkled across the November night, and at the new life being presented to her, an instant family with a widower and his young daughter. It meant money and difficulties, a life totally different from her own. But it also meant the sound of laughter from the kitchen, the smell of baking cookies, and a little girl who drew pictures for her. A man who made a 90-minute drive every single weekend just to spend time with her. A house that felt cozy instead of vacant. I'm afraid. I'm 40 years old and I am more afraid than I've ever been in my life. Because if I commit to this, if I let myself fall for you completely and it falls apart, it would shatter you. I understand because I'm feeling the same thing. I've pushed everyone away for a few years because I'm not sure I could handle another heartbreak. But Linda, you're already here. You're in my life. And that might be even more frightening than just taking the chance. What are we doing here? We're starting a future if you'll let us. Linda's thoughts drifted to the boxes that had sat packed for 3 years, a symbol of a life half lived, because going all in meant risking it all. She thought about her mother reading poetry on Sunday mornings, and the words she always used to say, "My dear, a heart that has never been hurt is a heart that has never truly loved." Okay, I'm doing this. I'm scared out of my mind and I don't know what I'm getting into, but I'm doing this. Andrew pulled her in, kissing her with the intensity of a man who'd been starving for air. We will figure this out, all of it. The distance, the planning, the apprehension. Sitting close together, wrapped in blankets under the Napa Valley night sky, Linda finally allowed herself to believe in new beginnings. The next day, Linda woke to sunlight pouring into the guest room and the sound of chatter from downstairs. Her phone said 8:30, much later than she normally woke up. She quickly got dressed and went downstairs, drawn by the scent of coffee and pancakes. In the kitchen, Andrew was by the stove and Sophie was sitting at the table, both dusted in flour and sharing a laugh. Good morning. Morning. Andrew caught her eye and gave her a smile that felt personal and warm like a shared secret. Coffee's made. Pancakes are coming in 5 minutes. I was the assistant. I flipped one all by myself and it only hit the floor one time. Just one time is incredibly skilled. Linda took the coffee mug. Andrew offered their fingertips, grazing for a second, and his expression reminded her of all the kisses and commitments from the night before. Miss Linda, after we eat, can we make that peach dessert? Honey, we have to get peaches before we can do that. Can we please go to the farmer's market? The one with the guy who has the puppies. Andrew glanced at Linda. There is a farmer's market here every Sunday. Would you want to go as a family? The word just hung there, powerful and scary and beautiful all at once. I would love to do that. And as they finished their pancakes and discussed their plans, Linda felt a surge of hope that this could all work out, that this was something she could actually have. 2 months into their romance, it all unraveled on a Tuesday afternoon. Linda was at her apartment grading assignments when she got a call. Andrew's name flashed on the display, but the timing was unusual. He never rang her in the middle of a workday. Hey, is everything all right, Linda? His voice was strained with a kind of pressure she had never heard from him. I need to ask you something and I need a completely honest answer. Her heart sank. What is it? Have you mentioned us to anyone about me, the company or the estate? What? No, I told my friend Camille I was seeing somebody, but I didn't get into specifics. Why? Andrew sighed and she could hear some shuffling and a door closing. There's a reporter digging around. It's someone from a lifestyle magazine in the Bay Area. They contacted my office asking about my new romance and if I was finally moving past Rachel's death. They had your name, Linda. They knew you were a teacher based in San Francisco. They are preparing to publish a story. A sudden chill went through her. I haven't told a soul. I swear to you, Andrew, I would never. I know. I trust you. But someone must have seen us or mentioned something, and now it's about to blow up. He sounded utterly drained. I'm so sorry. I should have told you this could happen. I'm usually very guarded about my private life, especially where it overlaps with the business. But we've been to restaurants, walking through Napa the market. I let my guard down. You shouldn't have to keep your life a secret. But Linda's hands had started to tremble. A reporter, an article, my name in a magazine. What do they want? To interview us, I imagine so. And get pictures. The whole billionaire finds happiness after tragedy story. His tone was sharp with resentment. They'll spin it to sound like a romance when it's just a disgusting violation of our privacy. And they'll come after your life too, Linda. Your divorce, your career path, your personal finances. They will make me out to be a gold digger, Linda finished for him, her voice low. Like I'm just after your money. That's not what I was implying. But that's how people will see it, Andrew. I just can't do this. I cannot have my life dissected by total strangers. I can't live with people thinking I'm using you. Then let's not give them anything to work with. No statements, no interviews, no photos. They'll run their article anyway, but at least we won't have participated. And Sophie, what happens to her? If this all gets out, if she starts getting recognized everywhere, I've already contacted my attorney. We're in the middle of drafting a statement to make it perfectly clear that my daughter is not fair game. Any news outlet that publishes her name or a photo of her is going to be sued. Linda squeezed her eyes shut, feeling the entire world she had been carefully building start to splinter under the sheer force of this new reality. So this is what it was like to be with a billionaire. It wasn't just extravagant dinners and gorgeous homes. It was intense scrutiny, a total invasion of privacy, and strangers assuming they owned a piece of your life. I have to think, Linda, please don't do this. Don't shut me out just because of some reporter. I'm not shutting you out. I just need a moment to get my head straight. How long? I have no idea, Andrew. Can you just give me some room to breathe and sort out how I really feel about everything? The silence crackling over the phone felt heavy. At last, Andrew spoke. Okay, take the time you need, but Linda, seriously, don't run away from this, please. We can get through this, but only if we face it together. Linda ended the call without replying because she wasn't sure if that was a promise she was capable of keeping. 3 days later, the story broke. The first time Linda saw it was on social media. A contact had posted the link captioning it with something about finding love after tragedy, accompanied by a picture of Andrew at a charity gala looking devastatingly handsome and remote in a tuxedo. Her hands trembled as she clicked on the headline, Napa Valley billionaire. Andrew Hamilton discovers love again following wife's heartbreaking death. The article was a carbon copy of what Andrew had warned her about. It was filled with gushing prose about his late wife's battle with cancer, his years as a dedicated single dad, and now his blossoming relationship with Oakland local and English instructor Linda Peterson. They'd unearthed her entire work history, brought up her divorce, and even managed to find a picture someone had snapped of them at the farmer's market with Andrew's arm wrapped around her waist while they were both laughing at something Sophie said. They looked deliriously happy, like two people who were meant to be in each other's orbits. The comments section, however, was a war zone. Wow, she moves fast, doesn't she? Bet she saw those dollar signs. That poor guy, I really hope he has a prenup. I mean, she's attractive enough, I suppose, but she's no Rachel Hamilton. That woman was an absolute angel, total gold digger alert. Well, at least his daughter gets a new mother figure, even if she was bought and paid for. Linda forced herself to read every single comment, each one a tiny paper cut, that eventually became a deep bleeding wound. By the time she snapped her laptop shut, she was sobbing so uncontrollably she could hardly catch her breath. Her phone had been buzzing nonstop all day. It was Andrew calling, sending texts, leaving voicemails she just couldn't bring herself to check. She knew she needed to pick up, that he must be frantic with worry, but a paralyzing shame kept her from moving. A small part of her, the part that had always felt she wasn't worthy of this kind of happiness, started to wonder if the trolls were right. A sudden knock at the door made her flinch. Wiping at her puffy eyes, she peered through the peephole, thinking it was a neighbor. But it was Andrew standing in her hallway, still in his work clothes, his face a mask of exhaustion, concern, and resolve. Slowly, Linda pulled the door open. You drove all this way. You weren't answering my calls. I got worried. He walked right in without waiting for an invitation. As soon as the door clicked shut behind him, his gaze locked onto hers. You saw it. It wasn't a question. He could read the devastation on her face. In the comments, too. Linda's voice cracked. They think I'm just using you. They think I'm not worthy of you. They're strangers on the internet who know absolutely nothing about us. Linda, you can't let them get inside your head. How am I supposed to stop them? They're just saying what I've been afraid of all along. That we're a mismatch. That I have no place in your world. That Sophie deserves so much better than some broke divorcee who can barely hold her own life together. Stop it. The sharpness in Andrew's tone made Linda recoil. His expression immediately softened, and he stepped closer. I'm sorry, but Linda, you need to stop this. You have to stop searching for excuses for why we can't be together. You have to stop giving the opinions of other people more weight than what we actually have. What if they're right, Linda whispered. What if I'm just... Don't you dare finish that sentence. Andrew framed her face with his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. You are not a gold digger, and you are not using me. You didn't even want my help when we first met. Remember, I practically had to beg you to let me get your car fixed, to take you to dinner, to let me into your life. You fought me at every turn because you're fiercely independent and terrified of letting anyone take care of you. That has nothing to do with the fact that you bring me joy. You make Sophie joyful. You turn our house from a showpiece into a real home. You teach me new things, you push me to be better, and you make me laugh. You're compassionate and intelligent and so incredibly real. And I'm falling in love with you. So please, I'm begging you, don't let some stupid article by a person who doesn't know us from Adam tear apart what we're starting to build. Linda's breath hitched in her throat. You're falling in love with me. A small smile touched Andrew's lips, but his eyes were glistening. Yeah, I am. It's terrifying, isn't it? It's the most terrifying thing I have ever experienced. Because I'm falling in love with you too. And I have no idea how to do this without being petrified that I'm going to lose you. You're not going to lose me. Not unless you're the one who pushes me out. And even if you tried, I'm incredibly persistent. I will fight for us, Linda, but I need you to be willing to fight with me. Linda stared at this incredible, patient, determined man who had just driven 90 minutes because she wasn't picking up her phone, who was standing in her cramped apartment declaring his love for her against all the logical reasons they shouldn't be together. I'm so sorry. I panicked, and I just shut everything out. I should have called you. I should have trusted that we could get through this together side by side. We can get through anything as long as we're honest with one another. Linda pressed her face into his chest, inhaling his comforting, familiar scent. I love you. I'm a complete mess and I'm scared out of my mind and I have no clue what I'm doing, but I love you. Andrew's embrace tightened around her. Say it one more time. She leaned back just far enough to look up at him. I love you, Andrew Hamilton. Even though you're a billionaire who names his pets after types of wine, and you have a lead foot, and you make grilled cheese sandwiches that are way too perfect. He laughed and the sound shattered all the tension in the room. I love you too, Linda Peterson. Even though you have conversations with yourself in the car, and you still have unpacked boxes everywhere, and you analyze every little thing, and you're absolutely awful at letting anyone help you. We're some pair, aren't we? The very best. He kissed her then as if sealing a vow. Later that night, they were curled up together on Linda's couch, surrounded by empty takeout boxes, when Andrew showed her the official statement his lawyer had put out. Mr. Hamilton appreciates the public's interest in his life, but he requests that his personal affairs, and more critically, the privacy of his young daughter, be respected. He will be making no further statements regarding his personal relationships. Any publication that distributes unauthorized photographs or private information concerning his daughter will be met with immediate legal proceedings. It's a small step, but it's something. The respectable outlets will honor it, but the sleazy ones will either pay them no mind or will take them to court if they go too far. He gently pushed a lock of hair behind her ear. I went through all this before when Rachel was ill. The press thrives on a good disaster, and they eat up a comeback story. But after a while, they lose interest and latch onto something new. I just hate that you're being put through any of this. The idea that Sophie might stumble across her name in a headline one day, or that strangers feel they have any right to sit in judgment of your life. It's the cost that comes with wealth and a public-facing company. I was aware of that from the beginning, but this isn't what you signed on for, Linda. I would completely get it if you wanted to pull back to live a more private life. No, Linda cut in sharply. I am through with running. I'm through letting fear call the shots. Is this terrifying? Yes. Is it uncomfortable? Absolutely. But you are worth it. What we're building is worth it. Andrew's smile was radiant, completely transforming his face. Yeah, it is. But Andrew, I'm going to need you to have patience with me when I get frightened. Because it's going to happen. Old instincts die hard. I can do patience. So long as you promise you'll talk to me instead of closing me out. Deal. Their handshake turned into holding hands, which led to kissing, and that led to Andrew spending the night in Linda's little apartment. The two of them were tangled up in her small bed as if they were terrified to let the other go. The following morning, Linda awoke to sunlight pouring through her bedroom window and the weight of Andrew's arm around her middle. She could hear the slow, even rhythm of his breathing and feel his body's warmth against her back. This was not a dream. This was real. Regardless of the articles, the comments, the distance, and the anxiety, they were making a choice to be together. Andrew shifted his arm, pulling her a little closer. Morning, morning! Linda shifted in his embrace to look at him. His hair was a mess, his eyes were still clouded with sleep, and yet he looked more handsome than any person had a right to first thing in the morning. Did you sleep well? The best I've had in weeks. It seems your bed is atrocious, but you happen to be extremely comfortable. Linda laughed. My bed is not atrocious. It's just tiny. And the mattress is uneven, and I'm fairly certain my feet were dangling off the edge the whole night. And yet, you're grinning, because I got to wake up with you. Everything else is just background noise. Linda gave him a slow, tender kiss that tasted of mint toothpaste the morning and endless possibility. I love you. I love you too. What does your day look like? Tutoring clients this afternoon. What about you? A conference call at 10 o'clock. A meeting with my vineyard manager at 2 o'clock. But this evening, I am taking you out to dinner somewhere secluded where we can speak without being disturbed. You don't have to make the drive back. You only just made it home yesterday. I want to. On top of that, I need to show you that I'm committed to this to us. That involves being present even when it's not convenient. Linda felt a swell of emotion in her chest. You are rather incredible. You realize that, don't you? I'm not really. I'm simply a man who recognizes a wonderful thing when he sees it. And you, Linda Peterson, are the most wonderful thing that has come into my life in 5 years. That evening, Andrew came to get Linda at 7 o'clock dressed in jeans and a deep blue button-down that made his eyes seem so vibrant. He brought her to a quaint Ethiopian place in the Mission District, the sort of establishment with checkered tablecloths, shared platters, and zero pretension. How did you ever find this restaurant? I made some inquiries. I wanted a place that felt special without being formal, somewhere we could simply be ourselves. They dined on injera and zesty stews, playfully feeding one another and laughing when the spices were too much for Andrew. They spoke about everything. From Sophie's upcoming Christmas play at school to Linda's most difficult student to Andrew's plans for the spring harvest, and then they started talking about the future. I'd like for you to meet my sister. She has been pestering me about you nonstop. She thinks I've invented you. I would love to meet her, and I want you to meet Camille. She has been my closest friend since college, and she is dying to give you the third degree. The third degree, she's protective, and she saw the article. She just wants to confirm that your intentions are good. Andrew grinned. My intentions are exceptionally good. I intend to court you, fall even more deeply in love with you, and in time, if you'll allow me, create a life with you. Linda's heart fluttered. In time. I'm not proposing to you tonight, but I want you to be clear that this is my endgame. This is what I want. You, me, Sophie. A life together. If that frightens you, tell me right now. It absolutely terrifies me. But it also sounds like the one thing I never knew I always wanted. Andrew reached out over the table and clasped her hand. Then let's continue taking it one day at a time. No rushing, no expectations. Just you and me figuring it out together. Together, Linda echoed, feeling the words settle deep in her bones like a sacred vow. 4 months after the article was published, on a brisk February morning, Linda stood before her bathroom mirror, working to calm her breathing. This was it, the day she had been both anticipating and dreading for weeks. She was relocating to Napa, not into Andrew's home. They had decided that would be too much too soon and put too much strain on everyone, particularly on Sophie. Instead, she was moving into a quaint cottage at the edge of the estate, near enough to be a part of their everyday lives, but removed enough to preserve her own autonomy. Andrew had suggested buying her a home in town, but Linda had declined. The cottage was ideal. It had 2 bedrooms, a garden, and was a 10-minute walk from the main residence. The rent Andrew was asking was so low it was almost comical, something they had bickered about for 2 weeks before Linda finally gave in, realizing he would not be swayed. It's my land. I name the price, and I'm naming a price that allows the woman I'm in love with to live near me without going broke. Get used to it. She got used to it primarily because she desired this. She desired to wake up and see vineyards right outside her window. She desired to have coffee with Andrew before Sophie's school day began. She desired to be fully engaged in the life they were creating instead of making a 90-minute commute each weekend. Her phone vibrated. It was a text from Andrew. The moving truck just pulled up. Are you ready for us to come and get you? Linda took one final look around her small San Francisco apartment. 400 square feet that had been her sanctuary, her shelter, her safe haven for 3 years. The boxes were all taped up now, every single one, including those she had kept sealed for what felt like an eternity. She had sifted through her mother's handcrafted quilts, her old teaching supplies, and the photo albums from her previous marriage, choosing to keep what held meaning and releasing what did not. She was prepared. Ready, she texted him back. See you in a few. Andrew showed up with Sophie right behind him, the young girl practically buzzing with excitement. Miss Linda, you're actually moving? You'll be living at our place. Okay, not in the big house, but the small one, which is basically the same since it's so close I can just come see you anytime. And Daddy promised he'd help you decorate, and Sophie, take a breath. Andrew was smiling, but his eyes were locked on Linda, so full of warmth and feeling that her heart ached in the most wonderful way. Hey there. Linda felt herself being drawn into his embrace, taking in his familiar smell. This is your last chance to back out. We can tell the movers to forget it. You could stay here. Hold on to your freedom. I don't want to back out. This is what I want. You are what I want. Us is what I want. Sophie gave Linda's sleeve a little pull. Can I go see your new house? Daddy showed me photos, but I want to see it in person. Why don't you ride with me? Linda can just follow behind in her car, and we can all pull up together. This drive to Napa felt entirely new. Linda was no longer a visitor. She was coming home. The cottage was even more charming than it looked in the pictures. It was made of cream-colored stone with a red tile roof. Climbing roses were framing the entrance even in the winter. The windows just seemed to pour golden light inside. The inside was both cozy and bright. There was a living area with a fireplace, a kitchen featuring butcher block counters, a pair of bedrooms that felt massive compared to her city apartment, and a rear patio that looked out over the vineyards. Andrew, this is just incredible. It was simply an empty cottage. Now you've brought life into it. This isn't too much, it's just right. Sophie had already laid claim to the smaller bedroom, designating it her sleepover room. I can stay over sometimes, right, Linda? For nights when Daddy's working late, or when we need to have a girls' night. Linda knelt to meet Sophie's gaze. Any time at all, sweetheart. This is your room too. When the movers got there, the next several hours were a flurry of organized chaos as boxes were brought in and furniture was set in place with Andrew insisting on doing all the heavy work while Linda coordinated everything. Sophie did her part by unpacking boxes of books and placing them on the shelves in a charmingly haphazard way. By the time late afternoon arrived, the cottage was truly beginning to feel like a home. Her mother's handmade quilts were draped on the sofa, her own books were filling up the bookshelves, and photos were placed on the mantel. There was one of her mom, one of Andrew and Sophie, and one of Camille from her college days. You need a photo of all of us together. A family one. Sophie observed the mantel. The word made Linda's breath catch. Family. It was such a basic word, but it held so much significance. Andrew came up behind her, resting his hands on her shoulders. She's got a point. We should get one done today. The first day of the rest of our lives, our new normal. I love the way that sounds. That night, after Sophie had been put to bed in the main house, leaving Linda by herself in the cottage, for the very first time, she heard a knock at the door. Andrew was on her porch with a bottle of wine and a pair of glasses, a little housewarming present. And I also wanted to see how you were settling in. Your first night in a new home can be a little much. Linda took a step back, inviting him inside. It's very quiet, but a nice kind of quiet, very peaceful. They got comfortable on the sofa. It was Linda's old worn-in couch, but it looked different in this space better. Andrew poured the wine and said, "This bottle is from the very first batch I ever produced. 2011, I was 29. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but it somehow became one of our most successful years." Linda took a taste. It was smooth and complex with hints of cherry and oak and other layers she couldn't quite place. It's wonderful. Like you, Linda, there's something I really need to tell you. Her stomach did a somersault. That sounds heavy. In a way it is. Andrew put his glass down and took her hands in his. These last 4 months have been the happiest of my life, happier than I ever thought I could be after Rachel passed away. You've brought happiness back to this home, to Sophie's world, and to my world. I know we decided to go slow, to not jump into anything. But Andrew, please let me say this. I'm not proposing. Not at this moment. But it's important you understand that what we have for me, this is permanent. The fact that you moved here, that Sophie already calls this your home, the way you've become part of our lives isn't just some fleeting thing. I'm completely invested, Linda. Absolutely 100% frighteningly invested. Linda could feel tears stinging her eyes. I'm completely invested too. I walked away from my apartment, from my city, from my entire life, because I couldn't picture a life that didn't include you and Sophie. That's a scary thought for me, Andrew. But it is also the most correct decision I have ever made. Andrew held her face in his hands, his thumbs gently wiping away the tears that were now streaming down her cheeks. I love you more than I can say. It frightens me at times, as if I love you so much the world might just snatch you away. Nothing is going to snatch me away. I am here, and I am staying. You are not getting rid of me. That is the greatest news I have ever heard. He kissed her as if he wanted to burn the moment into his memory. The weeks that followed settled into a pattern that felt like a true homecoming. Linda would wake in her cottage and then stroll over to the main house to have coffee with Andrew before Sophie started her school day. She would then head to town for her tutoring appointments and return to find Andrew either in his office or out walking among the grapevines. Some evenings she'd make dinner at her cottage for Andrew and Sophie to come enjoy. On other evenings, she would have her meal at the main house, listening to Sophie talk excitedly about her day, as Andrew and Linda shared looks that communicated everything words failed to say. Weekends were reserved for being a family, with trips to farmers markets, a collaborative cooking experiments, and movie nights. Sophie had transitioned from calling her Miss Linda to just her first name, and every so often she would accidentally let Mom slip out before quickly correcting herself, her cheeks turning pink with embarrassment. Linda never pointed it out. She would just pull her in for a hug, kiss her on the forehead, and let the word find a warm place in her heart. Valentine's Day happened to be on a Friday that year. Andrew had been acting mysteriously all week, only telling Linda to keep her evening open and to put on something nice. At 6 o'clock, he came to her cottage door, dressed in a dark suit and carrying a single dahlia the same deep burgundy as the ones from their first date. You look breathtaking. His gaze swept over her in her emerald green dress. You don't look so bad yourself. So where are you taking me? It's a surprise. You have to trust me. She had come to trust him completely. So she put her hand in his and let him guide her to the Range Rover where Sophie sat in the back all dressed up and wearing a huge grin. You're coming along. I am the opening act, Sophie announced with utter seriousness, which made Andrew chuckle. They headed to a hilltop that overlooked the valley where a private dinner was waiting, a table for three, under a canopy of string lights with heaters to keep the February chill away. The scenery was absolutely stunning, with the sun just beginning to dip below the horizon of the vineyards. Andrew, just wait until you try the food. Daddy and I prepared it. Well, it was mostly Daddy, but I assisted, Sophie chimed in. Dinner was sublime. They had fresh homemade pasta, a salad made with greens from the estate's garden, and for dessert, a peach cobbler. You remembered Sophie was the one who reminded me. She wanted to make your mother's recipe for you. Linda looked at the sweet girl who had lost her own mother so early in life, who was now doing her best to give a part of Linda's own mother back to her. Thank you, my dear. This means the world to me. When dinner was over, Sophie handed Linda a homemade card, a masterpiece of glitter in horse drawings with a message scrawled inside in that careful way only a kindergartner can manage. Asterisk, I love you, Linda. You make Daddy happy, and you make me happy too. Love, Sophie. By the time Linda read the last word, tears were already streaming down her face. Okay, now it's Daddy's turn. I need to go inside now because this part is only for the grown-ups. Sophie rose to her feet with all the pomp and circumstance a little girl could muster. As if summoned, Andrew's sister materialized. Linda knew her instantly from photographs, and with a quick wink, scooped Sophie up and disappeared. And just like that, it was only Linda and Andrew alone on a hilltop in Napa Valley as the first stars began to dot the night sky. So I had this whole big speech ready to go, something flawless and romantic. But just seeing you here right now, the only thing on my mind is that I can't wait another second. Then he was down on one knee and the air left Linda's lungs. Linda Peterson, you walked into my world at the exact moment I needed someone. You discovered my little girl lost in the mist and you made sure she was safe. And in doing that, you somehow rescued me too. You bring laughter back into my life. You push me to be better. You've shown me that it's all right to feel joy again, to hope for more than just getting by, and to start building a real future. From his pocket, he produced a small box, opening it to reveal a breathtakingly simple diamond, encircled by tiny stones, the deep red of a fine wine. I'm in love with you. Sophie is in love with you, and the two of us want nothing more than for you to officially be a part of our family for the rest of our lives. Will you marry me? Tears blurred Linda's vision so much that the ring was just a sparkle, and Andrew's face was a soft, focused dream, but she could still make out what mattered. She could see the love, the hope, and just a hint of panic in his gaze. She could see the life he was holding out to her, a future full of sprawling vineyards and constant laughter, and a little girl who loved to draw, and a man who had rediscovered how to open his heart. Yes, yes, absolutely yes. I love you. I love Sophie. I love this whole life we've started to create. Yes to everything. The smile that broke across Andrew's face was dazzling, transformative. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit as though it were made for her. In the next moment, he was standing, drawing her into an embrace and kissing her with an urgency that felt both timeless and fleeting. You really said yes, he breathed almost in disbelief. I really did. You're stuck with me for good now. That is the best news I've ever had. The second best was discovering you in that fog with my little girl. The very best is this moment right here. From the direction of the house, they heard Sophie's thrilled squeal. She said, yes, Daddy. She said yes, and with that, Sophie came tearing towards them. Andrew's sister trailing right behind, camera in hand, and Linda dropped to her knees just in time to catch the little girl as she flung herself into a hug. You're going to be my new mom if you want to be. Wanting to be doesn't even begin to cover it. For my birthday last year, I told Daddy I wanted a mom, and he said it didn't work like that, but I think he was wrong. Linda let out a tearful laugh, hugging the sweet child who had stumbled out of the mist and completely altered the course of her life. I guess he was. Andrew agreed, wrapping his arms around both of them. The three of them stood there, a happy tangle of limbs beneath the star-filled sky. And Linda's mind drifted back to the person she was just 5 months earlier, the one who was stuck on the side of the road, too afraid to even unpack her belongings, too terrified to let herself hope, too frightened to believe that second chances were real. But that wasn't her any longer. She had transformed into someone who knew how to be courageous, someone who understood that love was a risk worth taking. She was someone who was creating a family with a billionaire who named his pets after wine, and a 5-year-old artist who was convinced you could wish for anything. I love you, both of you, more than I can say. We love you too, they replied at the exact same time. And far away carried on the breeze over the grapevines that now felt like home. Linda was sure she could hear her mother's whisper. Asterisk. That's my daughter. That's my courageous, wonderful daughter. Asterisk. Fast forward 6 months and the wedding day was intimate and flawless, held in the gardens of the Hamilton estate on a sun-drenched August afternoon. Camille was Linda's maid of honor, weeping happily through the whole thing. Andrew's sister kept an eye on Sophie, who was multitasking as the flower girl ring bearer and the unofficial wedding planner. Linda was dressed in an elegant ivory gown, complemented by her mother's pearls. Andrew was in a dark suit, a constant beaming smile on his face. They recited vows they had personally crafted, pledging their love, their partnership, and their futures to one another. And when the officiant finally declared, "You may now kiss your bride," Andrew drew Linda close and gave her a kiss that felt both brand new and beautifully familiar. Sophie let out a whoop of joy, and their small circle of friends and family erupted in applause. And Linda Peterson, who was now Linda Hamilton, reflected on the mist, the lost little girl, the car that wouldn't start, and the whole chain of small incidents that had brought them to this single perfect moment. It had been only 5 months since she found herself stuck with a child who'd wandered off, and the billionaire who came to her rescue had become someone she could never imagine living without. It wasn't his fortune or his sprawling property or his seemingly flawless existence, but because he saw the real her, all of it, and loved her for it. Because his daughter had looked at her and known she was a safe harbor, someone to hold on to. Because true love is never about finding someone flawless. It's about making the choice to be with each other day after day, particularly when things get tough. Especially then. Are you ready for forever? Andrew murmured against her lips. I think I've been ready since the day I met Sophie in the mist. I just hadn't figured it out yet. Then let's start living it. He took her hand, and so they began. Thank you for staying with this story all the way through. If you like this one, we guarantee you're going to adore what's coming up next. It is even more wild and captivating than you can possibly imagine. So make sure you don't miss it. Just tap on the picture that's appearing on your screen now to watch the next